Welcome. We're here at the Schomburg Center interviewing Alexsandra Mitchell, who is a librarian here at the Schomburg Center. And I want you guys to know your history, learn your history, and know where you're coming from. This is the Glitteratie Project. Tune in. Welcome to another installation of the Glitteratie Project. Today we have a special guest. So when I was growing up, I always used to go to the County Cullen Library in the Schomburg Center to do my research. And the librarians that were there were kind of like, normal bun, maybe glasses, snarky, but still wonderful in getting me the information that I needed. But today I wanted to kind of debunk and show you what librarians now look like, as well as how the trend of, being a librarian is now sexy again, right? Because that position at one point was not something people were going into, but now a lot of cutting edge people, a lot of trendy people, a lot of brilliant people are going into being librarians and more. So today, my special guest is Alexsandra Mitchell, and she is here today. Hi, Alex.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Thank you for being here with us today.
Of course.
Did I wake you up this morning to get here?
I was here on time thanks to you, and my supervisor would be happy about that as well. Anything for Aisha Diori.
So Alex, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do, and give us a little backstory of how you got into becoming a librarian and the other stuff you do as well.
Okay, so I initially started here at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture when I was an undergraduate student at Howard University. The summer of 2009, I was a part of the Schomburg Mellon Summer Humanities Institute, which is led by our Director of Digital Collections, Dr. Sylvian Doof. And the program is for undergraduate students who want to go to graduate school in the humanities. Wow. And so I was looking into potentially starting a PhD program or a master's in Africana Studies, which I did my undergraduate degree in. And it was kind of just like here learning about Black culture and the many facets. So we had morning classes with leading scholars on different parts of the field. And then in the afternoon, we would work on an independent project for a graduate study and also a group project for the website.
Wow. Sounds really busy.
It was really busy. It was a fantastic summer. It was really a rigorous study for me, but I learned a tremendous amount about the field and really had a great time and really worked with a lot of really great scholars, some of who are still my really good friends. And so during that time, I realized that I really enjoyed, of course, the research part. I enjoyed like my work as a scholar, but I also really enjoyed working more intimately with the materials as opposed to just, using it in terms of research. And so I ended up speaking with Stephen Fullwood, who's the curator of the division, currently the curator of the division, and then his supervisor, at that time, who was the then curator of the division, Diana Lachatinier, about going into maybe a dual master's program or, what it takes to go into library science as opposed to just archives. Yeah, and so they sat down with me. They were really generous with their time and feedback. And so once I talked to Diane and Stephen, I kind of made a decision that I wanted to do a dual master's in library science and Africana studies, as opposed to just doing like scholarly work. And so I still decided to do my scholarly work and to do my writing. I did a dual master's at NYU in library science and Africana. I had a really fantastic experience there. The library science degree was through Long Island University's Manhattan campus, which was in Bopes Library in Washington Square Park. So it was really convenient. It was tough. I finished the degree in 2 years, which was a lot of work because I had like 4 classes, which is a lot of classes for graduate school.
And you still managed to look so fab.
I didn't really look fab going to class every day, trust me. Some days I looked really crazy, but it was worth it. It was a sacrifice, but it was worth it.
I'll start, you all join in. Dun 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 dun. Let's try that again. Dun 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 dun. Okay, we are all African. The words uttered by the composer of this song, Chano Pozo, to the leader of the band, Dizzy Gillespie. Without any prior knowledge, one might not imagine that there are linkages connecting the African-based spiritual practice Abakwa to Afro-Cuban jazz, the African-American, and the Afro-Latino population of New York City during the 1940s, 1950s, and beyond. But with Chano Pozo, that was possible. What I'm arguing tonight is this. Gillespie's band forever changed the sound of jazz with the implementation of Latin rhythms and the conga by implementing Chano Pozo into the band. The men made history with the composition Manteca, which we just sang together. Some of you may know by his pop culture name, Tequila. Mario Bauza was responsible for introducing the men to each other after Gillespie suggested he was interested in putting these tunes together. They played at all the happening spots. Carnegie Hall, the original Palladium, which stood where our current NYU Palladium gym is today, and the famed Apollo Theater of Harlem. Pozo, an initiate of an all-male secret society for dancers and drummers in Cuba, Abakwa, would teach chants to his bandmates, including Gillespie. These chants made it into the songs Manteca and Afro-Cuba Suite, which Gillespie performed into the late mid-1980s as jazz standards. Pozo had an extremely untimely death after playing a concert in Georgia. His drums were stolen off of the bus. He was extremely upset and came back to New York to blow off some steam. He went to a bar, got into an altercation, and was shot dead. Gillespie created the lyrics, "I'll never go back to Georgia," and put them in Manteca as a result of this. Pozo's life is celebrated on a regular basis, even until today, within all of the communities he impacted. In Cuba, there's a yearly celebration for his life where musicians join to play some of his compositions and have fun. In Tume, Miles Davis's famous conga player attributes his love and success with the instrument to Pozo directly, and there's even a tribute record composed by Terrence Blanchard and Pancho Sanchez. Within this 2-year period, neither of the men spoke the same language. Pozo was quoted as saying, "Dizzy speaking no Spanish, I speaking no Angli, we both speak African." Thank you.
And so after I finished the degree, I had a number of projects. I worked with Madison Square Garden's archives in an offsite project in Mass with Queens in a warehouse, which was not as glamorous as it sounds, but it was a really, really cool project to work on. I had a fellowship with the National Library of Medicine in Maryland, and I worked in their History of Medicine division on a series of blog posts related to African Americans in medicine. They have beautiful images that I was able to pull from and really kind of tease out things that we don't normally talk about or that we don't really focus on in terms of library science. And then after that, I spent some time at NYU in the Tamament Library, Robert F. Wagner Labor Archives. They focus on labor and the left, which really provided me with a really great experience of working with collections I wouldn't typically work with, and also it gave me a level of radicalism in my own scholarship that I wouldn't have encountered had I not been there. And so I spent time adjuncting for about a year, a little more than a year, and then also during that time I was adjuncting at NYU as a professor in the Gallatin School for Individualized Study. So that was fun, and I love teaching. I didn't think I would want to teach undergrad before. I always wanted to kind of be a professor, and I still do want to be a professor at some point. But I thought I would want to work with graduate students because they're really serious about their work and they encounter class. You know, when I was in undergrad, I was a pretty good student actually, but you know, there's a lot of excuses, or the assumption is there's a lot of excuses. They don't take the work seriously. Exactly. But the students in Gallatin were super impressive. I took over a class for Danny Dawson, his Narratives of African Civilizations course, which was originally Clyde Taylor's class. Oh, wow. So it was really a lot of fun, a lot of work, but I really enjoyed that. And then, you know, I did both for a little while, and I had my own research company on the side, which is called...
Black folk always hustling.
Well, I had to work. I mean, because I had a lot of small projects, I still wanted to supplement my income. Yes, exactly. I didn't have a full-time position at that time. Didn't have health insurance.
So you had to do what you had to do.
You know, I had to work really hard during that time period. It was still a great experience, and I met a lot of amazing people. Was able to work with during my research company time. It's called Queen of the Stacks.
Oh, Queen of the Stacks.
Queen of the Stacks is
I like that. Queen of the Stacks.
Yes. And so I assisted people with various research projects, and then I also ended up becoming archivist to the Reveille Club of Metropolitan New York, which is a group of professional African-American men, one of which is David Dinkins, the first Black mayor of New York City, is one of their original members. So I ended up processing their records in their archive, which subsequently were donated to the Schomburg Center here. Wow. And so during that time period, I was, taking on smaller projects, doing other things, traveling, doing a lot of writing. And also my book project came during that time period. I was offered a contract from Roman and Littlefield, which is a publishing house, and I'm working on a research and strategies guide for the study of Black writing with my co-author Megan Goins-Doof, who also did the same program as I did at NYU and went to undergrad with me at Howard.
That's so crazy. You kind of ran into my next question, which was what inspires you and what kind of, kind of pushes you to do the work that you do, as well as then push yourself to do other things outside of that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I take a lot of my inspiration from art.
Yeah.
Art and culture. I spend a lot of time in my personal time and professional time going to different art exhibitions. I do a lot of creative reading, a lot of creative writing. And I'm always looking to Black women who've done what I'm interested in doing for inspiration or ways of knowing that it can be done. I'm pretty ambitious, and so I look to women who are super ambitious and who have accomplished, so I can know it's able to be done. Some of my biggest inspirations, like I come from a long line of like really strong women in my own family.
Yeah.
So I grew up in my mother's hair salon. So I grew up seeing my mom, have a business, run a business, have a family, be great with her family, be great in her business, build that from an in-house salon to a corner, of a major neighborhood intersection. Wow. And she developed that into a spa. She had handbags, she had scarves. She just did everything. So her and my godmother growing up watching them work was really is a big source of inspiration to me, as well as both of my grandmothers. They're really like my main sources of inspiration because they're really supportive of me, and they really my one grandmother was the person who started me going to museums as a child. So there was a whole new world that opened up to me as a result. Took me to my first dance performances, and so that really helped. Also being a dancer. Even though I don't dance as much as I would like to anymore.
We're gonna dance to that. A segue. That's a segue question since she talked about dancing.
Well, I grew up going to Philadelphia, which is the Philadelphia School of Dance Arts. Wow. One of the major companies for Black African Americans and people from the African diaspora here in the country, which was started by Joan Myers Brown, an amazing dancer in her own right in Philadelphia. And so growing up going to Philadelphia, I've always been, and I didn't think of it at the time as this, but I grew up in a lot of like a creative space. Exactly. With my mom in the hair salon, with her friends who are in fashion, growing up dancing, I was always just kind of entrenched in like a creative space. And so I try to still bring that to my work, even though, people don't look at librarianship or being an archivist as like a creative field or idea.
Oh, you just went into my next question.
You have to be creative though, and I really enjoy that creative part.
Next question. So demystifying what a librarian is, right?
Yes.
And I don't want to say putting the sexy in it or whatever, making it a space that young adults or people that are coming out of college or that are moving on, they'll want to get into. And how do you think that it has been from when you were going to libraries, accessing libraries as a young adult or things like that, to now you being a librarian and people seeing you and being able to kind of maybe relate to you because you have more of the look that, they look for. So what do you think?
So, growing up going to libraries, I didn't have, my librarian growing up wasn't like the hottest. I think they were actually, I would go going to like Philadelphia public libraries to like do homework or just be out of the house. But when I became an adult and coming here to the Schomburg Center, I was just really impressed with the wealth of knowledge that the librarians and archivists had here. In all of our divisions, people like really know the work. So that was like a big source of inspiration and drive for me to want to kind of continue down that path, even though it's not like, when I told my family, they were just like, you want to be a librarian? You want to do what? Like, what? You going to be that was literally, you want to be the sex librarian? Like, what do you, and I always get this, but I think being smart is so sexy. Like, I think there's nothing sexier than being smart. And I'm in a field where I learn something new every single day. And, there's always different challenges, different things that I'm encountering. But I can talk about literally almost anything that relates to Black culture. Because of the researchers that come here, I engage them, I help them with their projects. Meeting people like you, my various colleagues here. Everybody has their own life outside of the Schomburg Center. And people bring that here. So I'm appreciative of, those experiences that I get to have. Our programming really helps. People that I'm able to engage with the programming that I put on here and that I go to here from our other colleagues. And that's what's kind of drawn me to like being a librarian and archivist. And even when I'm like processing a new collection, I still have to use my research skills. I still have to use my scholarly skills because I have to write. I have to do research on the various collections that we're bringing in, because I want to make sure I'm giving it the most robust description. So when somebody's trying to find it, they access it, via the various points of cataloging and processing, etc. So being smart is sexy. Being a librarian is sexy. Being an archivist is sexy, and it's fun, and it's really fun work. I love my work.
Yeah.
It's really rewarding work. I really like what I do, and it's a lot of fun.
So that's actually me to my next question. What is the Schomburg Center? Because a lot of people don't know this gem is here, which is here. It's like it's been here for about 90 plus years, right? So tell us what the Schomburg Center is and what you can experience coming to the Schomburg Center.
Absolutely. So the Schomburg Center is came after the 135th Street Public Library, which is our landmark building, which is over here. And so that library opened in 1925, and it opened to meet the changing needs of the community here in Harlem, which is still changing drastically. But there was an influx of different immigrant populations, and so they wanted to make a diverse collection. And so in 1926, the library acquired the private collection of Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, our forerunner and our namesake, Schomburg. And at that time, they acquired thousands of materials that Schomburg had been collecting on his own. And Schomburg was he was told as a child that Black people had no history, no culture, and that we had done nothing great. And so he made it his life's mission and drive to find these vestiges of history to disprove this myth. And he literally, traversed the entire diaspora. He had friends that, traveled and collected on his behalf, such as Langston Hughes, Aaron Douglas. These are all his contemporaries and his friends, Hubert Harrison. And so, Malcolm X comes after, but they acquired the collection in 1926. It becomes the Schomburg Collection for the study of American Negro life and history. I could have messed that up a little bit, but so that opened. He became the curator of the division until he passed away. He was followed by Lawrence D. Reddick and a number of other amazing curators here at the Schomburg Center. And then in the 70s and 80s, we had a building expansion. It became the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. And so we have these other two buildings, the Landmark Building and this building now, which are the forerunner of our current Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture.
And you guys offer other things besides just the research components.
Yes, so other than the 5 divisions, the Manuscript Archive and Rare Books division, Movement Image Recorded Sound, et cetera, we offer public programming, which for our division, the Manuscript Archive and Rare Books division, I curate a podcast series, Live from the Reading Room, correspondence. I curate Live from the Archive, which is a series of conversations between artists, scholars, community members to come in and talk about their work at the intersection of art and archives, which is one of my main interests and ideas that I'm really focused on in my personal research and professionally. I also do Everyday Archives, which looks at and helps our community members process their own personal archive collections and saving their personal family history, because it's really important. They know a ton of information about Harlem history and diasporic history, and oftentimes they don't get to donate it to a division or to a collection such as the Schomburg Center. And so it's a great opportunity for them to curate their own home collection and process it and keep it safe so that they can pass it on to their family.
It's amazing. It's amazing to be able, because I know that with slavery and a lot of people lost their history, right? And what the Schomburg does here is really start to reintroduce you with history from all over the diaspora, the Black diaspora all over the world. So it really kind of puts things together and brings things full circle. So for fun, what do you enjoy doing for fun?
For fun,
I know you like to travel.
I travel quite a bit, and I travel for work and for pleasure. And I'm really into nature, so when I travel, I try to spend as much time as possible at the beach. I like hiking and going to rainforest.
Hiking.
I like being in nature.
I don't rough it.
I don't necessarily rough it either, and I may be cute while I'm hiking, but I will have my hiking boot and other, necessary materials. I read a lot. I really enjoy writing, the book project and other creative writing projects that I work on personally. I spend a lot of time with my family, as much time as possible. They're in Philadelphia, so I go home as often as possible or have them come here and visit. Spending time with family and friends. What else do I do for fun?
Shopping.
I shop, but even though I shop and I make sure I think about my aesthetic.
Exactly.
I definitely put time and effort into that. But I'm an online shopper and I do not like going shopping. So I'll shop for shoes. But other than shopping for shoes, in person, it's stressful to me. So I can't say that I enjoy shopping, even though I like looking put together. I just really don't enjoy the process. I'm online, whatever I can order. If order a bunch, and then whatever I don't like, I just send back. And that's way easier than me going to a bunch of stores.
online shopping.
And going out to eat. I love to cook. I love to cook. And I don't have as much time to cook with my work schedule, and I have a long commute. But I love trying new recipes. I love buying recipe books, and I love trying new food.
You stay busy. You're always busy, Alex.
Yeah, I don't think of it that way, but I guess I am. In a way, I guess I am busy. So yeah.
So my last question to kind of close this out: what would you tell your younger self, so that like somebody coming up in this field or wanting to join this field or wanting to join, it doesn't necessarily have to be even a librarian, but just being able to be at one and be so connected to your history and things like that. What would you tell your younger self, and what would you tell somebody that wants to become a librarian, a researcher, or an author, right? Because there's those different hats you wear.
So I would say spend a lot of time having fun, because something that I'm learning right now, that I'm realizing is, when you're busy and when you work a lot, oftentimes you think you just need to keep working. You have to meet every deadline, and which you do. You have to meet your deadlines, and you have to get a lot done. But if you're not having fun, it's harder to do your work.
Yes.
And so I have to balance, having fun with doing my work, but also to tell my younger self, on top of having more fun rather, like to really work on writing and learning how to write. Like it's such a valuable skill, and it's a skill that will really it makes you the cut above in whatever your field is, because people always need strong writers. So whether you want to be a librarian, you want to be an archivist, you want to be a writer and a scholar, you really need to work on those writing skills. And it starts from young, from reading, like loving reading, loving writing, loving having fun. Really, really important.
Like full circle, being all around. Thank you so much, Alex, for coming on the show. Glitteratie Project.
Live from the Reading Room, Correspondence is a podcast series that aims to share interesting and engaging letters written by or to key historical figures from the African diaspora. Each episode highlights a letter from popular collections housed in the Manuscripts, Archives, and Rare Books Division at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, New York Public Library. Today's episode features a letter from civil rights activist, dancer, singer, and actress Josephine Baker to Japanese journalist Sumio Matasuo. Today's correspondence is recited by Aisha Diori, Special Events Manager, Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, New York Public Library. Without further ado, we welcome you to the Reading Room.
Hotel Gloria, Rio de Janeiro, September 2nd, 1952. Mr. Somio Mansao, Osaka Manchi News, Dojima, Osaka, Japan. Dear Mr. Mansao, our friend Miki Sawado just sent me a letter from Japan telling me how you are plugging our association. Dear Mr. Mansao, it is with great humility that I thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping to open iron doors that as yet have not been opened concerning racial and religious discrimination. The problem is delicate and the fight is hard, but the victory is certain because at last people of the world are getting together, especially the colored people. They're standing up as one man for their rights. Now's the time. Tomorrow night will be the inauguration of the two associations here in Brazil. We're taking Brazil as a symbol of democracy among the American countries because of the predominance of the mixture of races. The Brazilian nation is made up of the yellow race, the red race, and the Negro race, which make these colored nations predominant because of the three colored races against the white race. I would like you to send some Japanese literature to Ms. Laura Slathen, 1919 South Harvard Boulevard, Los Angeles, California. Ms. Slathen is the president of our association in North America. There are already branches of the said association in various cities in North America. We're giving lectures free of charge to the population in each of the cities on the colored countries throughout the world and about their culture. I've got to tell you that the president of our association here is Deputy Alfonso Arinos de Mijo Franco, who is the author of the law being passed here in Brazil. against racial and religious discrimination. The Vice President is Deputy Nelson Canara. The movement, as you're aware of it, is tremendous and extremely important for the future peace of the world. I understand that Ms. Sawada is leaving for the United States of America. She has told me how wonderful you are in plugging and upholding an association, which she's president of there in Japan. She has also told me that you are sponsoring my visit to Japan. You can count on the visit being around the 15th of January, because the first days of January I'm invited by the President of the Republic of Haiti and the President of the Association in Havana, Cuba, for the official inauguration of the association now existing in these two countries. From there, I'm flying straight to Japan. You should be 3 people. My secretary, Mariah Caroline Carruthers, Miss Laura Slathan, President of the Association in Los Angeles, and myself. Miss Sawada tells me that she would like me to do 3 days benefits to be able to get money for her orphanage and the association. It is with great pleasure that I accept. If you would like me to give 2 or 3 more spectacles in 1 or 2 cities, I will be more than happy to do so, because I understand that you have to have money. Will you please help Miss Sawada to get strong fighters on her side, because we need people who are real fighters for our civil rights fight, people who are not afraid to understand they are fighting for the future of the world. And closes a copy of our statuses and purposes. Miss Sawada also tells me that you are kind enough to give her an office in your building. Dear Mr. Mansajo, will you please be good enough to write me at the Hermitage Hotel, Montevideo, Uruguay, where I shall be from the 1st of September until the 19th of September. I send my profound friendship. Sincerely yours, Josephine Baker. P.S. Our association represents the future and the peace of the world.